Good morning, and we are back to Shades of Green radio show on KDWN 720 AM and 101.5 FM. Our show is produced by Green Alliance of Nevada and sponsored by NV Energy, and I am your host, Paul Ira. Vanessa, Portillo, Bryan, Cabble, welcome. They are from Garden Farms. Good morning.
Good morning.
So we're talking about moving into the next phase of gardening, which is the cold weather stuff. December is right around the corner. Tell us about what we should be doing. Tell us about planning and maintaining the school gardens first off.
Well, this time of year, it's all switching over from the warm season stuff. Some things are still kicking out. Like, you'll still see some eggplants and chilies, maybe some tomatoes and, like, Armenian cucumbers, different things like that. But we're switching all over to the cold season crops. So that's the greens like kale and collards and mustard, chard as well. And then the lettuces, so, you know, your own romaine, so you don't have to worry about other people, you know, and bad things getting in there.
Right, yeah.
Or different salad greens, you know. And then root crops, so radishes, beets, and carrots. And then with those beets, you can eat the greens as well and throw those in salads.
Tell us about that. I've heard that, and it looks pretty good. I've never eaten them.
I love it. So I love growing beets because, I mean, they're such a underappreciated crop. When you grow your own, they're just so insanely sweet and delicious if you roast them up. So one time I went on vacation, it was in the winter, or probably January, February. My mom was washing my dog for me, and I'm like, hey, just help yourself to whatever you want in the garden. And she took some beets home and cooked them. She's like, oh, these are the best beets I've ever, like, she still talks about them. That was like 7 years ago. She's like, oh, those beets you grew, oh my goodness. But when they're growing, you know, it's just, they're cousins to chard. So if you like eating chard, you're gonna love eating beet greens. There's kind of that same, you know, flavor, a little touch of earthiness. You know, the beets are gonna have a little bit more, and the chard are gonna be a little bit saltier than beets. But if you're just, you know, taking a couple leaves off here and there, you just throw it in a salad. And if you're growing all this different stuff, then you're just plucking everything, all these different greens and lettuces, some herbs, and just throw it all together. And you got something that tastes really good, and you only need like a little vinaigrette or maybe a dash of like some lemon juice or something.
And those will grow all through this cold weather here in Nevada.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if it starts snowing, they'll stop. But
you know what?
We don't get much here.
They'll still be all right. We've had some snows in different accounts that we have around town.
But I'm thinking in colder regions.
Yeah,
but here they'll just keep growing through that one.
Oh yeah, and actually some of the things taste better if there's a frost. So like kale actually sweetens up quite a bit when it goes through a frost.
Well, there's such a thing called ice wine, and they pick the grapes when they're frozen.
Oh, it's a
it's
delicious
very
dessert
expensive.
wine. Yeah,
it's
that's
very
fantastic.
expensive. Good stuff. So yeah, the winter is a good time to grow these things, and the root crops take a while to grow too.
Yeah, so if you look at your seed packet, it's going to say like for carrots, it's like 60 days. But you got to keep in mind that's if you look at the dates, that's if they're thinking you're planting in April or May, where you're coming into the summer solstice where you're getting tons of sunlight. Whereas we're going the complete opposite way. You know, we're going less and less sunlight. So it's not going to take 60 days. It's going to take 90 days. It's going to take 120 days. You know, everything's going to take a little bit longer in the cool season. So you try and get stuff in as soon as you can, and then just sit back, relax, and wait, and, you know, pick some greens and salads while you're going at it. And now's a great time for a lot of different herbs to go in as well.
What kind of herbs would you plant now?
Well, any of the perennial ones. So the rosemary, parsley self-seeds and kind of is year-round for us. So it flushes back often. But sage, thyme, oregano. Be careful with oregano. That likes to spread like crazy. Mint, if you put it in a container, never put it near your garden even. Just set it by a door somewhere.
Well, if oregano spreads, it learned it from mint.
It sure did, yeah.
Mint's amazing. I'm amazed how far mint will spread. Underneath things, yards.
Yeah.
I've had to go 6 yards.
Oh, wow.
18 feet underneath things, and then it pops up over my other garden. I was like, where'd this come from? I pulled the root up, all 18 feet long, all from the same plant.
Nice. And then I'll mess around with some basil. Vanessa and I disagree on this. She's like, basil for summer. It loves the heat. And I'm like, yeah, it likes the heat, but we're pretty mild here, so I can get away with like an autumn basil crop, and then I'll plant some again in like February, so then I got it in spring and early summer.
I'm amazed how basil grows here.
Yeah.
I've
Cilantro.
had basil 3 or 4 feet tall almost.
Oh yeah.
Cilantro too.
Yeah, cilantro right now. So cilantro, people get kind of confused because, you know, the tomatoes and peppers grow during the summer, and people are like, yeah, tomatoes, peppers, cilantro, salsa. And they're like, oh, I could never grow cilantro, you know. But it actually loves the cool weather.
Yeah.
So right now is a good time to plant your cilantro.
There's a great summer substitute for cilantro, though, called Papalo, P-A-P-A-L-O, all one word. And it tastes a lot like cilantro, but like a touch of rue, if you've ever eaten rue, R-U-E. So, but that loves the heat and grows in the summer. Or you can, if you want to try it first, go to like where were we at? Mariano's or Cardenas?
Yeah.
So we went to one of the
Local stores.
Yeah, the
grocery
local
stores.
Hispanic grocery store, and they had Portillo there. So I got to try that.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Wow.
And it's strong as can be. So if you're using a tablespoon of cilantro or something, you're using like half a teaspoon of this Portillo stuff.
I'll have to check that out because I like cilantro myself.
Yeah.
Good stuff. So, how are the trees, the fruit trees and what have you? What are they doing right now?
They're losing their leaves slowly but surely. So all the deciduous ones at least. So I'm already throwing some burlap on citrus right now, and I just keep it covered until the last frost happens. Then I'll uncover it. But for those deciduous trees, we're about to get into pruning and maintenance time for those.
So it's a good time to start pruning.
Once they've gone fully dormant. So I like to wait until usually January, and then we'll go around and just start clipping everything, and we'll brush some trunks and scaffolding branches with like a DE paste, diatomaceous earth, so that'll help prevent the borers flying on. They'll go find some other tree that doesn't have it on there.
And how do you wrap your burlap around the base of the tree?
It's more just like draping.
Okay.
Draping it over. Once a citrus tree's been around for a while, then it's a little bit tougher. You don't have to worry about burlapping them. But for the first few years, I definitely just throw something on top of them.
Just to cover.
Yeah,
just
and then
leave it.
I've had a real windy backyard, so like I've had to get a bunch of rope and just wrap it around the burlap,
blow up, yeah.
so it looks like tree bondage. But I'm just trying to keep it all on there.
So is that just citrus trees or all?
Just citrus or evergreen. So I mean, if somebody's trying to nurse an avocado through, it wouldn't be a bad idea to go ahead and throw it on there. Or even mangoes, if people have mangoes, you could do that as well.
So you can keep mangoes going here.
You can. You got to have the right microclimate, and you might instead just throw clear plastic over them just to keep them even warmer instead of burlap. But you definitely want to keep frost off of them.
But they need to breathe too. You need to like with little holes or something like that.
For sure, just a little bit of venting wouldn't hurt at all.
Yeah.
But that's if you're really going to lengths and troubles, when you could just buy mangoes for a pretty good deal most of the time.
And the nice thing about burlap is you can leave them on all winter because they have all those holes. So the sun, it lets filter sun through, it lets water through. If it needs it, they can breathe. So, and then also lettuce. Lettuce is a winter crop, although it is sensitive to frost. So if there's ever a freeze warning, you do want to cover up your lettuce. But besides that, burlap is great.
We were talking a little bit before the show about the romaine lettuce issues nationally. Can you comment on that a little bit? You had some interesting insights.
Oh well, yeah. So this year they've stopped doing the water testing for the irrigation for those. So I think people might remember earlier this year we had the same issue. There's two different grow zones basically. There's Yuma, Arizona, and then there's a grow zone in California, and they alternate every 3 months who's growing certain types of salad, like romaine's one of them. But a lot of the fields are irrigated from the river water, and upstream there's a cattle ranch, so there's a whole bunch of feces going into the water feeds, and now they're not testing anymore, so that's when you end up getting these sorts of things, these outbreaks.
The E. coli outbreak from the water going into the plants,
Exactly.
And this was in Yuma, Arizona that was having the issues, I think.
This go around, I'm not sure if they're growing right now. I can't remember which months or who, but I remember earlier this year they had traced it back to some fields over in Yuma.
That's interesting, yeah. And that's from the Environmental Protection Agency was
Yeah,
formally
so
doing
earlier
that,
this year they put it on a 4-year pause, the water testing for some reason. So, now we kind of have to deal with stuff like this. But I mean, we've had it before. It's just kind of, that's why you grow your own, really.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
If you wash it really well, does that matter, or is it inside the lettuce?
You know what? That's kind of still debated. But I just wouldn't mess with it at all.
It has a lot of water content, so you
Okay,
wouldn't want to.
let's answer this when we come back to Shades of Green on KDWN. We'll be right back.